Auburn baseball won a humongous series against South Carolina this past weekend. We're talking about that and looking ahead to a humongous weekend this weekend with LSU coming to town. All that right now on our Auburn baseball midweek chat. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, we appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time talking about something within the Auburn experience, because that's what we're all about here. Sports and everything in between. If it's orange and blue, it is what we do. On today's live stream, we'll do a short form discussion information session about the week that was in Auburn baseball. Normally, we're doing this right after a midweek baseball game. There is no midweek baseball game this week. It is finals week on campus, so you can imagine everybody else is a little bit preoccupied with that. So no midweek baseball for that reason. We're just going to be focusing on the South Carolina series, which was huge for Auburn baseball, and looking ahead to this LSU matchup and kind of just taking a catch-up time where we can just kind of reassess where we're at as an Auburn baseball team just for a few short minutes. So that is our focus right now, what we'll be getting into. You can participate in the show, especially if you're watching live. Would love to hear some of your commentary. So do that now. You can go ahead and get started by posting in the chat right now where you're watching from, your city, your state. If you're international, that is a huge help to get the stream started off on a good note. And if you enjoy this type of content, it's always helpful to make sure that you smash the like button. That is always a huge help in that regard too. And I would say this too, for those of you that may be stopping by, seeing if maybe we're going to slip some Auburn football talk into this with some news that just came out. There'll be a live stream right after this one at the 9 o'clock hour Eastern time to discuss TJ Finley and his news. So hold on to that for just a little bit. But for now, let's focus on Auburn baseball and what happened this past week. Again, no midweek game for us to talk about. And I kind of hate that because I've been used to us having that to focus in on and really assess where we're at midweek wise. If I take you back to last week, it was not a good state of being. Where we had dropped a series again to another SEC team that we shouldn't have. We had dropped a midweek game to a team that we should beat. And so there were a lot of frustrations around, not a lot of hope heading into the South Carolina series, because it was the number 2 in some regard, depending on what matchup or what publication you looked at for those particular rankings. It looked like it was not going to be a good weekend for Auburn baseball, but they had different ideas. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday games, they were able to get all those in. I don't think they had any weather challenges, but I know other baseball games around the country had a few weather challenges. They did have to move up, I believe, one of the games like an hour or adjust the time of it, the last game or something like that. But anyway, Friday, they took on South Carolina in game 1 in Columbia and won 8-3. Big shocker there. Auburn gets off on a good note. Now, we say that's a shock, but it really shouldn't be the way that we typically start in SEC series of late. But we'll get more into that in just a little bit. Game 2 was the even bigger shocker. Auburn in game 2 takes the series on the road versus highly ranked and highly touted South Carolina. And I think shocked a lot of people, maybe even themselves just a little bit. Not that they ever believe that they can't do it, but I think when you get into a funk, maybe like they were in dropping some series and some midweek games that they weren't anticipating, you can understand why things can get a little bit down. Boy, was that a pick-me-up. And nearly on Sunday swept the South Carolina Gamecocks. In fact, the Gamecocks, it wasn't until the bottom of the 7th, I believe, in game 3 on Sunday was the first time they took a lead. And Auburn nearly took it back 7-8 was your final. And they had runners on base too in that final inning. So it was a humongous weekend for Auburn, and what you really needed to happen overall in SEC play, but on the road as well. We talk a lot about in sports RPI and things like that. For those of you that don't really understand what all it is, essentially it's kind of a measuring stick for where you stack up with others in determining postseason play. It's relevant in basketball. It's relevant here too. Just know this was a humongous win. When you can win on the road against a highly ranked opponent, especially one that was supposedly going to beat you, at least take the series from you, if not sweep you. That's a huge thing. Huge. Absolutely huge. And it's going to be much needed going to the next week. Let me take a second here and focus in on game one. I did not tune in right away at the start of this one because we were out of town this weekend, but I started getting updates and I'm like, what's going on with this team? It was just like something was in the bats. Somebody needs to check cork bats. I know it's aluminum for college baseball, so that's stupid, but somebody needs to check the center of those bats because Auburn was sending it out of the ballpark early and often in each of these games. Several guys, Cooper McMurray, Bobby Barrels, and that's just the two that pop in my mind. Just we're not shocked that the offense showed up because what we've talked about all throughout this season is the struggle does remain with the pitching staff. We all know that. They're putting together some gems here, though, of late, which have been really timely and really crucial. But the question's never been, will Auburn produce enough runs to keep itself in the game? Outside of a literally handful, and I say barely a handful of games, you can say that the offense didn't show up for the defense, the pitching. The offense showed up in a big way in all of these games. I mean, your lowest scoring game for the Tigers in terms of offensively was the last one, 7 runs, and they nearly won that one. They got leads early and often. That was huge, but you cannot take away from what Tommy Vale continues to do for Auburn as the Friday starter. You know, this is a reality where if we kind of rewound back to what we were all thinking and talking about at the beginning of the season, knowing Joseph Gonzalez was our ace, expecting him to probably be the Saturday starter to try to either win a series if you had taken the Friday game or set you up to salvage the series. And he's not been but one game is all we've had with him, and now we'll be out for the rest of the season. I believe that's officially confirmed. I know it was talked about in press conferences and stuff like that, but Tommy Vale has emerged in an amazing Friday guy, a setup guy. I don't even want them to move him around because he's having so much success on Friday right now in the SEC. Think about that. In the SEC, as difficult as that can be. So Tommy Vale on Friday gets the win. 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 6 walks, 7 Ks, and that's his second SEC win in the last 3 attempts. And absolutely outstanding because we have talked a lot this season about the offense, about the bats of Auburn, but we have not had the opportunity to just overly indulge in complimenting and celebrating the pitching at times. And this is one of those times right now, especially when you talk about Tommy. Would you really need to take the opportunity to do that? So incredible start for him on Friday to get us to the point where we needed to be to have a successful start to this series overall. I'm scrolling back through here just to kind of see if I can find any stats worth mentioning offensively. Looking right here, game 1 of South Carolina. You've got Chris Stanfield 2 for 4. Bobby Pierce was 2 for 5. Cooper McMurray 2 for 4. Bryson Ware. How did I not talk about Bryson Ware already? 2 for 5. So your typical murderer's row, so to speak, of of bats for Auburn showed up in game 1. Game 2, a lot of bats got utilized again. People who had the best days overall: Bryson Ware 3 for 5, Bobby Pierce 2 for 5, and Cole Foster as well getting into the mix 2 for 5. The starting pitcher for game 2, excuse me, was Will Cannon. And then there was a platoon that was brought in: Parker Carlson, Chase Alsop, Drew Nelson, Trevor Horn, Tanner Bauman, Cameron Keesock, and Ryan Olson. Now, listen, it got a little bit scary in this one. I think a lot of us worried that we would not be able to hold up to an onslaught of South Carolina as they started to get going, but we did, and thankfully so. So we really needed to secure that win because we know how Sundays have typically gone for us, and that's not a shot at one particular person, pitcher, or player on Sundays. It's just we kind of knew Sundays has not gone well for us. Get the game on Saturday, and then obviously we've mentioned a little bit what happened on Sunday. Even with Auburn maintaining the lead, South Carolina coming back and able to get a lead and hold on to it, they still made it an incredible ending to the game and a very fun weekend. Clint Richardson, who you see here a lot on this channel, I know he was there for most of the games in Columbia. I didn't know he was taking a little trip down there, but that seemed like he probably chose a really good series to go to. And yeah, so I have heard that great things about that ballpark. So if you're going to go to that ballpark, face their fans, you want to definitely go to a series where you're actually, doing well and actually having a good game. So as it stands for last week, overall, Auburn went 2-2 with the loss in the midweek game leading up to the South Carolina game. 25-18-1. Oh, I still hate that we have to talk about this tie. It frustrates me. Why do we still have ties? 9-12 in the SEC to keep you within a manageable situation for the SEC overall on a 2-game win streak. And we look ahead to LSU Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right after finals and graduations gets going on campus. This is a big weekend for Auburn fans on campus. If you are there for graduation, if you're there for softball, which is doing their final SEC series, baseball, which could be a huge, huge weekend if they can somehow win the series here. You'll have to beat LSU at 6 p.m. on Friday, 8 p.m. on Saturday, and 1 p.m. Sunday. Now, when I did look at the weather briefly, it did look like there was going to be some potential weather to deal with on that at least certain times of day. So hopefully that doesn't become a bigger issue. But I know Plainsman Park is going to be rocking, especially after the weekend. Imagine what Plainsman Park would have been like. And they still would have shown up and we had a good crowd. But imagine how much less energized this crowd would have been without this weekend. It's everything I can do not to come to campus this weekend. I'm really trying to not, as much as I would love to be there. I don't know that I can, afford that right now. Gracie's here talking about baseball. We have no guy right now who can come in and close games like Greenhill. Yeah, when you lose guys like Greenhill, what are the other ones that I wanted to mention from last week? I was just talking with someone about all these different pitcher names. Yeah, we've definitely lost a ton from last year. And we kind of knew that going in. The question was what it would look like definitely when we got to SEC play, but overall throughout the year. And we've had some of that answered. So a lot of it shouldn't shock us. But when you lose a guy like Cody Greenhill as a closer, Will Cannon's had some pretty good times closing the game, had some struggles as well. It's just kind of one of those things. Pitching all over the place has been up and down, hit or miss. No one guy is at fault. It's a team sport after all. So this is a learning year, and we're still making it pretty interesting in a learning year, which you really, really got to love. All right. So South Carolina, we did win the series. LSU weekend, we already told you 6, 8, and 1 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Get out to the ballpark if you can get there. Obviously, Auburn needs to take one game here. When you run into these situations, even though it sounds defeatist, you really want to focus on taking at least that one game, but you're on your home turf. Yes, it is by some publication standards the number 1 team in the SEC, but you just took down the number 2 SEC team and number 2 overall team in the nation on their home turf in South Carolina. So if you can do it there, it stands to reason that you can do it here. So hopefully you guys can get there, follow along, and support. Real quick things before we get out of here. As a reminder, if you are watching live, we're going to be doing a live stream at 9 o'clock, right on the top of the hour there, about the football TJ Finley news. So pop on over there if you can. In fact, if you stay at the end of the stream, there'll be a link that'll send you right over there to go and hit the notify me bell, hit the like button, all that kind of stuff. Other things to keep in mind, we do have Auburn Family Night this Wednesday. 8 p.m. back at our regular time. Do check that out. It's our call-in show. Would love to hear from some of your smiling faces. We do have a subscriber giveaway going on. Probably going to knock that down to 4,000 subscribers when we announce the winner for that. So help us reach that if you can. All kinds of other videos out right now. Check out those links in the description. You could be a channel member. You could be a Booster Club member. Any of that's available for you. We appreciate those of you that are able to do that. We also just appreciate you being here, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our midweek chat. For Auburn Baseball, we'll do this again next Tuesday, but right after the midweek game. So until I talk to you next time, either on the next Auburn Baseball midweek chat or on another video or live stream, I'll see you then, and War Eagle.